This is usually the first face that people make when you tell them that you're going to be riding a bike in Bangkok. The city's legendary traffic jams haven't done the practice any favors, and people think you have a death wish. But I'm going to talk about how sometimes that's not always the case. In fact, I'll tell you, if I was going to ride a bike in any city, it would be Bangkok. Thai drivers are remarkably patient and usually on the lookout for motorbikes, tuk-tuks, guys pushing bug carts, and random pedestrians anyway. If you're patient and you know how traffic works, it's actually not so bad. It could certainly be worse, like these guys in the top right corner fighting. You'd never see that in Bangkok. A lot of people ask me what bike is best to ride in Bangkok, but everyone's different. That's my bike on the top left, a Trek 4300. It's nothing special, but I like it because it rides equally well on pavement and dirt roads. Fixed gear bikes are very popular right now on the top right, but they're not really my style. They don't give me as much control as I like. And my buddy Dale even built his own bike out of bamboo on the bottom there. There are certain things you need for riding a bike in Bangkok. In my pocket, I always have cash, a bank card, some Thai ID, my BTS card, and my hospital card. If I get smoked by a tuk-tuk, I want to make sure I'm able to check into a hospital with no delays. A helmet is a must, as is a bell for warning people walking in front of you, because often you have to hop up onto the sidewalks to get around the traffic. My friend John and I, who used to ride all the time, called ourselves the Quicker the Dead. This picture was our little cute logo, which we think sums up Bangkok biking pretty nicely. Paved, civilized, but still a bit wild. This guy jumped on my tire on Soy Rambu Tree during a water stop. Now, the way we used to ride was just to ride and get lost. In a city like Bangkok, you can imagine that we ended up in some pretty neat corners where few foreigners ever tread. It was interesting, but a bit chaotic at times, and we were never sure where we'd end up. In the middle of some cows, trapped at the end of a flooded pathway, or riding through the jungle like Andrew did on the bottom right there. So basically, it was just a lot of trial and error, which is a bit frustrating. As you can see, there's a lot of Bangkok to explore. Seeing your hard-won trail end in a brick wall or a river crossing or someone's living room is disheartening if it happens over and over and over again. Now, one of my favorite city rides is this route from the Thai tobacco monopoly to Prasumen Fort. You see a great variety of neighborhoods on this ride, little cool back soys as well as markets, the river, Thammasat University, the weird, strange Talat Noi neighborhood, and the Grand Palace, Wat Po. At the end, you're rewarded with an amazing lunch at Roti Motaba, which is right across the street from Prasumen Fort. Highly recommended if you've never been there. We made a lot of routes through the city like that, just basically connecting little rides into longer and longer rides. But it took a lot of time and plenty of going back to see if we should take the third left instead of the second, or the third, or the fifth, or the first. Of course, one fringe benefit of doing it this way, though, was all the Thai we learned. We saw these signs so many times that we soon learned them by heart. Anyone know what they mean? Yeah, from top to bottom, it says Tang Dan, Ham Jakriyan Pan, and Tenon Pit, Mi Kan Kosang. Apologies for my poor pronunciation, but that means dead end, no bikes allowed, and road closed for construction. We saw those a lot. Now, it may seem a bit counterproductive, but often you don't want to ride to your starting point. You want to meet your friends there, fresh and ready to go. The funny thing is, in a city like Bangkok with so many transport options, most of them won't let you bring your bike on any of them. Trains, buses, boats, not even an option. They just say no, cannot. Thankfully, some can. The BTS is my favorite way to get around, although if it's crowded, it's not very enjoyable for you or your fellow commuters, especially if it's at the end of a long, sweaty ride. Taxis are good, but often need a bit of convincing that yes, it is possible to put a bike in a car. Tuk-tuk drivers will usually take you without much hassle, but they can often be a bit expensive, although if you're going to go for pure convenience, you can't beat the tuk-tuk. But once you do reach your friends, one of the things I love about biking in the city is the variety of the terrain you can ride on. Sidewalks, roads, swampy pathways, dirt trails, quiet soys, and busy markets, often all on the same ride. This is a quick video I took of a nice ride in Phra Pradang, just across the river. And here's a video the same day, about an hour later. Bit more of a chaotic area, but like I was saying, Thai drivers in Bangkok are very forgiving, sometimes too forgiving of idiots like me weaving in and out of traffic. If I did this in any Western city I've been to, I imagine I'd have a crowd running after me waving golf clubs or something. But the recent jump in phone technology has really revolutionized city navigation for me. I know dedicated GPS devices have been around for a while, but for some reason using an iPhone with Google Maps just seemed much more accessible and easy. This is where I keep the phone on my bike, and the cradle I bought at Fortune Town for about 1,000 baht. So Now what I do is I go into Google Maps on my computer and I trace out a route from A to B. I just draw a rough line and then I refine it, choosing smaller sois and side streets as I go to make them more interesting. You can see what I did at the top there. I dragged the line down across the streets and I'm just dragging the dots down smaller and smaller sois. And one thing that makes route planning really easy is a new addition of Street View to Google Maps. Using that, I can check out a street to see what it's like, and I can choose an alternate route if it's too busy, if it doesn't look interesting, if it looks like it's blocked, or if there's some kind of weird building that wasn't there before, or it's full of people for some reason. Who knows? You never know in Bangkok, but it's a really handy way to check out the streets that you're planning to ride on. So once I've got that route mapped out in Google Maps, I save it, and then I load up an iPhone app called My Maps. In here, I can sync it with Google Maps, turn on the GPS, and it shows my location. From then, all I have to do is make sure the blue dot stays on the line, and I'll never get lost. I admit that some of the fun of exploring has been taken out of the ride, but it's now much easier to go much further and without wasting time on U-turns and dead ends. I can also make sure that I stay away from major roads, which usually means finding some pretty cool stuff, like this beautiful rice field on the way to Ayutthaya, or this top right picture with a huge statue of Buddha at Puttamantan, or this kid on the bottom right who wanted to try on our gear. So now I think I've explored a good chunk of Bangkok. Here's some of the routes I've done in the past few months. Like I said, I wouldn't call riding in Bangkok safe, but if you're patient, if you know how traffic works and you can handle a bike with a good amount of control, it's a great way to see parts of the city that most people never will.